All right, I know, or I get the general feeling that those people who voted for change, in other words, voted anything but Labour, the Māori Party and Greens last election, many of you are feeling somewhat disappointed that certain things you thought would change have not. And I think one of those things that many people voted for change for was the ridiculous politically correct wokeism infecting many quasi-government agencies. I think best typified by the crazy court case which is ongoing over the Real Estate Institute demanding that real estate agents for 1 year do a block course in Māori tikanga in order to renew their qualifications as real estate agents. That caused outrage, and it is all sort of justified by the fact that somehow all agencies have to honour the Treaty of Waitangi and its principles, the principles, of course, which move like the sands of time and are currently being debated in a highly charged and highly politicised select committee hearing in Parliament, the legislation to define those principles. But meantime, the woke nuttiness continues apace. And we're going to talk in a moment to an MP who has highlighted three instances that are probably worse than the wokeism of the Real Estate Institute. The first is pharmacists who have been told to learn tikanga and all things Māori, to be pharmacists, psychologists, and midwives. The midwife stuff is pure lunacy. I might add, none of these organisations are signatories to the Treaty of Waitangi. They have no legal or moral obligation to have anything to do with the Treaty of Waitangi. One would have thought their job was to simply regulate their professions and ensure public safety. Joining us now to discuss the ongoing madness of wokeness is Todd Stevenson, ACT MP. Todd, welcome to the program. Nice to have you with us.
Thanks, Sean. Nice to be here.
All right. These three examples we've got, is there a common theme running through the policy statements or strategies or public pronouncements of these organisations?
Well, I think the common theme, and don't forget the nurses, Sean, which we highlighted last year, but all of these organisations, I think what it comes down to has this idea around the treaty being a partnership, people having to be treated differently based on their ancestry, has got a real grip into these professional organisations. And we've just got to say enough is enough. If you're in the healthcare sector, we actually want these bodies to actually just be looking after competency of these healthcare professionals and actually just treating everyone with dignity and respect.
Okay, let's run through, and I know you've made probably a more detailed study of this than me. Let's start with the midwives. How extreme is... They're actually calling for people who are members of the Midwives Association to actively campaign against the treaty principles bill. They've almost become a political organisation, haven't they?
That's right. And again, all of these organisations shouldn't be politically campaigning like that. And I think the Midwifery Council's made some quite extraordinary statements and then very unwisely distributed that checklist flyer. So
tell us about that.
Well, that's basically this checklist flyer which went out to all their members about basically how you can, in a sense, honour the treaty and need to be doing your part. And again, I think women having a baby probably just want to know that the person that they're dealing with is competent. I'm sure they want to be listened to, and some of that might, they might have particular needs based on their culture. But what we're actually wanting is competent people in the midwifery profession.
Okay. Does the Midwifery Council exist by Act of Parliament as a statutory body?
So all of these councils run independently, but their members are appointed. And so that's where we, I think, have got some scope. Not me, because I'm not a minister, but some of the ministers have scope to actually make some changes. And David Seymour's already signalled that for the Pharmacy Council, for example.
That he's going to remove the current members if they don't change the policy?
He gets to appoint new members. And so, he's already looked at a list and said, no, I want you to go back out. And he's actually put out the call for free-thinking pharmacy professionals to come forward and do their bit for the society. Or
Can
for
the government
council.
do the same for the Midwifery Council?
I believe there'll be a minister in charge of that, and certainly you may recall Sean Simeon Brown has written to the Nurses Council asking them to please explain around their standards and competencies.
Yeah. What about the psychologists? And tell us about them, because that's the latest one, I think, that's popped up.
Yeah, and they actually, I mean, look, they really concern me, Sean. I actually wrote to the Psychologists Board in September last year because a group of psychologists actually came to me in confidence and said, look, they're putting this out for consultation. We've got major concern. So this is people from the profession. And they said, can you raise this? We're actually too worried about raising it directly. So I wrote a very polite letter, Sean, outlining all of their concerns, which were very, very reasonable. And the best I got was an acknowledgement. And, you know, I just suggested sensible things like they only had a 2-week consultation. Actually, why don't they open the consultation for longer? Why don't they actually engage the members properly? And if you look at their code of ethics, they talk about things like psychological safety. Well, it doesn't appear their own members think they're psychologically safe. So, you know, they need to
What
go
are
back
they
to the drawing
basically
board.
demanding of their members, Todd, the psychologists?
Oh, all kinds of, you know, basically having to be educated in the treaty, basically trying to embed it into everyday practice. Look, it's just quite a list of things. And again, you know, their own members are saying, can we just have another think about this? And they just ignore it.
Todd, the thing is, in truth, the government can sit there and play whack-a-mole and change appointments to all these boards as they come up. Or it could, and the 3 members of the coalition government could come out and say, this stops now or we fire you. It seems to me, and this is all because of a thing called critical race theory and the belief we need to decolonise, which, for example, Una Jagos, the Solicitor General, is deeply into, and she wouldn't admit she was on this program. That was when she published guidelines saying maybe think twice about prosecuting Maori people because they've been colonised. I mean, this is really now a fundamental ideological battle that cannot be won by fighting it piecemeal against a number of people who are delusional enough to still believe in this ideology.
I totally agree, Sean, and I think you said it well at the start. That's why ACT has been pushing for the Treaty Principles Bill. I mean, unless we can have an honest conversation about what the treaty means in modern New Zealand, actually define that. And look, I've had to sit through many
do we really
submissions.
need that, Todd Stevenson, or we just need to tell these nutbars they will lose their jobs if they do this silly stuff?
Well, I think we need to do both, but I do really think we do need the Treaty Principles Bill, Sean, because that's where the crux of the issue is, where we get into this partnership discussion, where we get into actually people, and look, I've heard the submissions, people actually think that Maori have special rights based on their ancestry.